Hello, and welcome to a special wee episode of Beast Fables, a prequel Fables. I am joined today by the one and the solo, Fraser, as we go on an adventure through the bristly woods, or more specifically, the dry, barren peak wall, looking at the origin of Lutzen, the rat, the mechanic, the danger.
The danger rat.
Danger rat. This is where like a theme tune would play. And we have like the animated intro and like the.
We're getting too adjacent to like Danger Mouse now. This is not. We're we're crossing over into some other IP.
We'll get there. We'll make our own IP. Yeah. So yes, I am joined today by Fraser, but I should probably introduce myself first. I am Brian. I use he/him pronouns, and I run Dungeons on a Dime, a publishing imprint making role-playing game content like Scurry, which is now pretty much available for pre-order / is out, and Adventures on a Dime, the system we are playing with today, and Beast Fables, the whole world we were exploring. A wonderful kind of massive wood in Scotland filled with a ton of beasts. As I said, I am joined today by Fraser, who will now introduce himself.
Hello, I am Fraser. I go by he/him pronouns, and I am an illustrator, character designer, person. Yeah, I do art, so go and check it out. You can find me under the alias of Lost Astronaut on most things. You can support my Patreon there. And yeah, I am playing Lutzen, or Lutzen Origins, pre-Lutzen.
Prolutzen.
The not quite. No, he's not a crop or rat yet. He's just a rat.
He's just a rat. He ain't no
just
craft
a rat,
paw.
baby. He has 4 paws. None of them are crafty yet.
I mean, he's crafty and he has paws.
That is true.
He's yet to like adhere the two, I think. So, I don't think there's anything. Normally we have a recap, but I don't think there's anything to recap. Instead, we're gonna just dive right into the origin of Lutzen.
Do like a rewind.
So, Lutzen, it is a cold spring morning. Not that you really understand it as spring. Your sense of the seasons is quite limited, having spent most of your life underground. You don't actually know where you are. We have a map here for our benefit, for the story, but you are in a semi-forested ravine. There is grass and stone all around, and occasionally you hear the rustle of things in the brush, of birds overhead, and your heart is beating very fast. It's maybe mid-morning, and you have not got much with you. You've got the pack that you were allowed to gather before your family kicked you out, and a juicy worm that you found after maybe it rained. All you know is that you're not welcome anymore.
Yeah. I think he's kind of. I don't think he's too phased. Well, he is, but he's not kind of letting it show. Like, you know, he's excited to get out and explore the world a bit. I think it's not quite settled in what the lack of welcoming to his home means just yet. You know, it's not quite hit him. So I think like he's definitely caught up in this like juicy worm that he's found. It's like, oh, this is very exciting. Oh, there's so many more out here. I don't have to share it. Oh, it's fantastic. It would be better if it was candied though.
Yeah, they have this special thing they do with worms and bugs where they saute them with like carrot juice, and it really cooks down into like a really gooey treat. You're kind of missing that.
They kind of turn to like jelly-like, almost like jelly worms.
Like a worm tagine.
Ooh. Nope.
Rats would love it. We not so much.
Rats would love it. Yeah, humans no.
So, Lutzen, your mind kind of replays the events of the last few weeks. You had been tinkering as you like to do, you just like to experiment and play and put things together and see how they work and take them apart. And you had been tinkering with one of the struts in the burrow, and maybe caused a small, tiny. It's nothing. It's just a tiny cave-in, and maybe had possibly almost nearly killed several people. It was not your fault. They just happened to be on the wrong side of the cave-in, and it took them like 2 days to be dug out, and it was very stressful. And it was only like your 5th warning to not mess with the struts. You just wanted to know if they could be made better.
Yeah. It was the rocks were the ones that fell. So like...
Yeah. You didn't make the rocks fall. The rocks were like, okay, I'm just going to give in now. How could have you known? And they wouldn't tell you how they worked. They just said, don't play with that.
How was I meant to know the effects of what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Cause and effect, who?
Yeah, like consequences? What?
Oh no.
So you've been wandering for a day now. Or maybe, I'm not going to say a day, maybe more like most of the morning. Your family kicked you out of this home you've been living in most of your life, and now you don't really know what to do.
I think he's just wandering through, because you said right now it's kind of more of a ravine-esque area, like it's not quite in the wooded part just yet. I don't think he would have seen, if the burrow was all underground, he's not really seen much plant life. But I think he's probably traveling towards the wooded area, because that's exciting, and there's new things there.
You've never really been allowed outside. Normally, the young pups have to stay in the nest. In the is it the nest? Yes, I think it's called the nest.
Yeah, the nest.
And only the older rats go out and scavenge and come back, and they're always looking out for predators, which are kind of.
I like to
you don't really know what a predator is. You just said they're
lots
bad.
of tales. Lots of tales of going out to hunt and all these kind of things and all these dangerous things are out there, but that's never the part that Watson pays attention to. You know, there may be bad things out there, but the interesting things, the sprawling trees and the like vast bodies of water that he can't even contemplate, are what capture his imagination and attention most.
So you spend maybe like the better part of a few hours just walking towards the forest, and you kind of get a sense that it is really, there's a lot of space out here. You walk.
I feel like he's scurrying between things. Like he's scurrying between little things that he spots something and he'll scurry to the side and he'll spot something else, and he's just kind of got like an armful of just like little fun rocks and like knickknacks and just odds and ends that are just rubbish.
You've got like the bag of fixings that you've been gathering, more like hoarding since a young age. It's kind of in an old like carry sack that someone threw away because it was too worn and too like threadbare, and you kind of like doubled it down and made it more fit you, and it's now full of rocks. So I'm going to go to your inventory.
Okay.
And I'm going to add rocks as one of your tools. You just have lots of them. And maybe some of them are like very, very low quality semi-precious, like a piece of quartz or maybe some slate or something like that. So you have rocks. I'm also going to say that all of your stats are a D8.
Okay.
So you
I
are...
can't seem to see the character sheet for that one just yet. The access.
Drama.
Drama.
Go. Edit. Oh, it's in your journal, but you can't actually see it. Edited controlled by. There we go. You should be able to see Wee Lutson.
Yeah, there we go. Wee Lutson.
So you were resourceful, fit, and confident.
Cute. That feels right.
So you scurry towards the forest, kind of picking up rocks, and then making the tough decision, and this is what slows you down, of like, oh, but this one's prettier, okay, I'm going to put that down, and you have a very complicated like process in your head of like, right, the hierarchy of rock value, until you make it to the boughs of the trees, and these things go up for like 10s, 20s, 30s of rats. Like, all of you and your cousins and your brothers and your sisters could not stand on each other's shoulders and get up there. They're huge. And they're covered in these tiny green spikes, and they smell so intense. Of this sort of like spicy, burning, verdant smell in your nose.
I imagine he's mystified by it. Firstly, he's like just jaw on the floor, but then probably gets a good whiff of those little spiky needles. If we're going for the same thing, he probably starts sneezing because it's like, like it's overwhelming. Just
yeah. Also, I think, did we? I can't remember if we said that. Is your name actually Lutzen right now?
I don't think it is.
Because I don't think this is the thing. Rats choose their names, and you can change them at various times in life to reflect who they are. I don't think that you were Lutzen to start with. You were instead who?
I think something. It's probably something that he's never encountered. I think the rats name all of the children or the pups after small like flowers and things like that. So I'm going to say his name was Dewdrop, or Dewey for short.
Wee Dewdrop.
Yeah. And that's all he knows. It's just his.
But you've never seen Dew, and you don't know who would drop them.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're out. You acclimatize to the kind of the forest. And you're walking around it, and you hear above you the crack of branches of wood snapping, and you instantly have like a tense moment. There's going to be a cave-in. That's the sound that the cave-ins make. What do you do?
He will like dive to like under like a root or something, or just some sort of like small cover, and just like curl up next to it and just like hide. He'll kind of wrap up in a little ball, his little tail kind of come around and like hug himself tightly. But I think he's still kind of got like his head's kind of peeping up and out to just keep an eye out as well. You know, staying safe but still curious.
I think that's going to be a cunning roll for me, and awareness of your surroundings, finding somewhere to hide. Is there anything you want to tag?
I'm gonna say for hiding, probably not. Okay. I do like to imagine though, just for the flavor of it, like, you know when you see cats that get a fright and they like jump up and all their legs just like fly out to the side.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa! Like he does that and then like strides along. Yeah. Did you say it was a cunning roll?
Yes.
Cute. That is
a 5, a success. You all of your hair immediately on end.
Oh yeah, bristled.
So you scrabble underneath a nearby root, and then there's like a. You poke your head out, and one of the trees has fallen over, but it's very small, and it seems to have been attached to one of the bigger trees. One of the branches has fallen out of the trees above, and you notice flying through the canopy and out of vision, some kind of large black rat. But the rat only has 2 legs, and it's got massive arms that it's just like moving up and down, and it's gone.
Wow.
You think that might be a predator?
Yeah. I think he kind of sits and watches it disappear for a while, and then the stories of predators are they will find you, they will hunt you down, and like they will just they'll get you. So I think maybe he crossed his mind, maybe like, oh, maybe that's a predator. It's like, oh, but it didn't see me, so it can't be a predator because I'm still here. It's fine. And he just gets on his merry way. He picks up the rocks that he dropped when he got a fright, carrying some more in his arms.
They are different rocks.
Different rocks. Oh, they're completely
You think they're the same, but they're different rocks.
No. Probably picks up a few of the pine needles as well, just to break and smell, and just keep a couple of them.
You have a fistful of pine needles, or a pawful.
Yeah, a pawful. Aww.
And You start to make your way. Where do you go now?
I feel like he just darts between different things that are slightly more interesting. I don't think there's any like logic to it. It's so I think if he was to see something on the horizon, or like some like smoke or something, or if he heard water, he'd definitely be following his senses for sure. Curiosity is definitely leading him first and foremostly.
So I'm gonna have you. We're gonna do not quite a full scene, but just a mini scene. So there are 2 fortunes that I'm gonna read to you, and I'd like you to pick between. The first is taking in the sights, and the second is melodious echoes.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, the melodious echoes is definitely taking my fancy, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. That sounds fun.
You start to sense something that you don't really rely on hearing a lot, as someone having lived in the nest. You have focused a lot on smell and staying quiet because predators are everywhere and they could find the nest and they could eat everybody. It would be awful. So you don't know how you feel when your whole body starts to shiver as you hear this kind of weird high-pitched warbling trill. It's not a bad sensation, and the sound is far off, maybe behind some trees and down the valley a little bit. And it's gentle, but loud. You're not sure. It's a weird sensation.
Yeah, I think that fully catches his attention. I think he gets like the kind of the ghibli shiver, whereas like his little fur just kind of like and just like blows on his body. Maybe his little foot
It's probably
goes
like your
like
first. It's your first ever feeling of frisson.
Of what? Sorry, frisson.
You get, when you listen to good music and you get that tingling.
Oh,
that's frisson.
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's like little foot like goes. Maybe his tail kind of like twitches a little bit because it's just like a ooh, like ooh. And he'll like, obviously he's still got all those little like rocks in his bag and things, but he'll drop the ones in his that he has like collected in his arms because they're just they weren't good enough anyway. He was just considering them. And he'll just kind of
they're weighing you down from getting towards your goal.
Yeah, and he'll just kind of like dart along the ground, as rats kind of do, like on all fours, and just.
They sort of like they don't run; they sort of like bounce.
Yeah, they bounce
in
kind of
marks,
like a little wave. Yeah, just like a like a dolphin, but on the ground.
Like a land dolphin, like a rat.
Like a rat. Yeah, like how rats run.
You sort of bound and bounce along, sending old dry brown pine needles scattering around you, not really kind of caring about your surroundings, and you get closer and closer. Now, we humans know that this sound is whistling. Someone is whistling a jaunty tune, but Wee Dewdrop doesn't know that that's whistling. So it's this strange lilting up and down and quite like hearty and lively kind of just trilling, and you're bouncing along almost in time with it, and you start to hear other sounds. You hear like a of a cart on wheels, and you sort of cross over the threshold of maybe a bit of rock and hill, and you look down at this kind of like valley here, I'm gonna say, in the red circle, and you notice that there is what is there? I'm just gonna go to my notes quickly. There is the largest rat you have ever seen. It's easily 10 times as big as you are. It's got the same sort of colour of fur.
Okay.
It's not going to be as big as we'll show up on the screen. I will resize it.
Oh my god.
There we go. It is a massive rat. It's got a really thick, wide tail, and it is wearing a sort of like a purple overcoat and this sort of like gauzy shawl. They are sitting on this cart, while a second rat of a similar sort of size, sort of brown, wide tail, is pulling the cart along. And the cart has got a variety. It's got like a tarp over it, and it has got like a variety of interesting looking bumps and shapes. And this is really interesting because this rat is pulling this thing, and this thing has got wheels, big round discs of wood, and it's moving.
I think he's fascinated. He's probably kind of quite low in the brush in the grass, and I think he's slowly crawling forwards. He doesn't realize he's doing it for sure. Not paying attention, just like he wants to get closer. He wants to see more. He wants to know what this is.
So it's going to be a cunning roll to try and figure out what this cart is and get like a better look at it, because that's awareness of your surroundings. Is there anything you want to tag?
Yeah. I kind of feel like I want to make it a disadvantage because he's not paying attention at all. Like he's completely driven by just. I mean, maybe it's just like his unfiltered, not personality, but like it's just that curiosity is so driven that he's not paying attention to what he's doing. He's not trying to be subtle. He's not trying to be hidden. Really, it's just like instinct, but he's not paying attention to that.
It's a strange longing. So I actually go for it. Have a disadvantage. Roll twice, and we'll see what happens.
Well,
okay. So critical success and complication. You barely manage to pull it off, but not without consequence. The narrator describes how the situation becomes more complicated. You are going down towards the hill, or going down the sort of slope towards the road this cart and these two, they are beavers, are on. And you get to a point where you stop and you lean on like a flattish piece of rock to sort of get a look. You think you're pretty hidden, and you feel in your head that you're just really taking in the car, but you don't realize it's the piece of rock is actually sliding down the hill on the street, like, and you are just literally getting closer to the cart.
Yep.
And one of the beavers, or these big rats, goes up, whoa, go, Gerber, stop. And the other kind of beaver kind of like slows down and turns around and kind of leans back and stops the cart from moving. And then Gerber kind of turns and says, Bruce, why are you getting me to stop? As you, with the momentum, stop and then spin underneath the cart. You're now looking up at the axle, which is this interesting piece of engineering allowing the cart to, essentially the person who's driving it, to pull it in different directions, left or right, and then it will change the orientation of the wheels. It's really cool.
Wow. I think, he's kind of lying there, and he's got his little paws tucked up. He's lying on his back, I imagine, now. His little paws tucked up, and his head's starting between, like, falling along the axle, like the axles, and then seeing, like, the joint in the middle, and then out to the other end, and just, like, darting back and forth, completely unfazed that he just encountered these two beavers, which he just thinks are other rats. You know? He's just like, oh, the rats are fine with rats. It's okay.
So, Bruce kind of pokes that, kind of gets off the cart, and there's like a as it sort of like shakes from side to side as they get off.
As it does that, he probably gets a fright and like jumps again and like scurries out from underneath it. It's very quick, like that kind of immediate instinct reaction.
Where do you scurry?
Just out underneath from the other side of the cart. Just away from the thing that is moving, the big thing that's moving. Yeah,
so you go to the other side of the cart, and Bruce kind of pokes their big beaver head wide and round underneath. And you sort of see them looking at you from in between the wheel spokes. And they say, Oi, who are you? Oh, you little Wayne thing. What are you doing? What are you doing under our cart?
What's a cart? And what kind of rats are you? You're awful big.
And Gerber kind of looks back at at Bruce. No, Bruce looks back at Gerber. Gerber being the one pulling the cart, Bruce being the one driving it.
And what happened to your tails? Did somebody run over it?
And kind of Bruce lets like a little. What are you on about? Come out from under there. Come. What are you? Oh, no one ran over our tails. They're fine. You awful small thing doing out here in the middle of nowhere. Gosh, where have you come from?
Well, I came from the nest, obviously. I just heard the sound, and I followed the sound, and then I saw the big rat in the sky, and then I heard you, and I heard your big moving thing. What is this? Where are you going?
Car. It's called a car. We're going. It's
A car?
little village. It's just opposite Powell's Head. It's Powell's Tail.
Who? A what? A village?
Yeah, it's You know what a village is? You must be old enough to go and market with your parents.
No, we just stay in the nest.
Oh.
Could I?
Gerber, do you want to help? And kind of Gerber kind of has slowly kind of and gently crept around the other side and is now not next to you, but sort of at the front of the cart if you're like at the side of it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And is kind of like squatting down on his hind legs. And Gerber says, "Come here. Why don't you come sit on our cart and we'll help you get a bit orientated. You seem a bit confused. You been out here long?"
I think he kind of looks up towards like the sky, and then realizes he doesn't really know how to tell the time. Mm-hmm. And he'll just kind of point to where the sun was when he first set out. I think I've been out this long, and he's kind of pointing like his one little paw like directly up, and then one kind of slightly at a different angle. Like been out about that long.
Actually, I want you to make a cunning roll for me, and I'm going to say it's a disadvantage, and I'll explain after you make it.
Okay. Well, success or critical success, so you know.
So, you do realize the sun has moved, and you're looking around, but it's still like all lovely and pink and blue, like it's a sunset, like it's a sunrise, and you realize it's like getting close to sunset. It's been like a whole day that you've been wandering around the forest, and you realize there's like an ache in your stomach because you're like, oh, I'm actually really hungry, and oh wait, what have I been doing? And so the beaver kind of looks at their companion and says, "Oh, we should get you somewhere nice and warm. Come sit on here." And he kind of like pats the seat of the wagon. And you sit up here with Bruce, and we'll get you a gulp of water. We'll get you to Powell's Tail, and we can figure out what to do next. You must be looking for your parents. You must be lost. Where's this nest? Have you?
Oh no, they said not to come back.
And Gerber gives Bruce a concerned look. The rats in the nest have always been quite closed with their emotions, and so it's weird to see like a grimace. So whatever they're feeling, it must be very bad.
Yeah. He's like, "Do you smell something funny?" I don't think he realizes like what that like means necessarily.
Bruce lets out a little laugh and says, "Oh, it's nothing. Just come sit on this cart, have some water, have a snack. We'll get you to Powell's Tail. We'll figure out what to do next." It's
okay. I have a worm, and I think he'll very like timidly take it out and like take a little nibble, and then like offer a bit more.
It's a little tenderized by all the rocks in your bag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You kind of like offer a little bit to the two beavers. So.
The Gerber very politely takes like a little bit of tail in two of his front claws, and it's like a piece of gum to a human. Yeah, it's tiny. And he goes, "This is very nice. Why don't you?" And he kind of goes to pick you up. What do you do?
I think he kind of like just moves out the way a little bit. He kind of like tenses a little and like flinch, not quite flinches, but it's just a bit more like tense and kind of darts a little bit out of the way.
Yeah. He goes, oh, no, don't worry. I was just going to put you up on the seat, but if you want, you can make it up yourself. I was just going to say, why don't you have a bit of oatcake? And yeah, it seems like you've had a bit of a hard day, and that's not great. Yeah, you don't have to come with us if you don't want.
Oh, no. I would love to meet a village.
And he kind of gives us another look and goes, I don't think you'll meet the whole village, but you'll get to see it. It's a little fishing town. It's on the water.
Is it not just a big person?
He goes, oh, gosh, no. Again, there's a lot of pauses of, oh, gosh, no. There's all sorts of animals live there, and they all got their own little houses, and some of them live in the water. There's,
You can live in the water?
Kind of, they look at each other and go, yeah, Bruce's aunt's got a little dam on the... Oh, dam. And kind of Bruce goes, it's not a dam. It's just a little hovel. It's just on the water, and it's a little half in, half out. Nothing fancy.
Well, it sounds pretty fancy to me.
Yeah. So they kind of, they're back and forth like this a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, do you want to go with them?
Yeah. I think Lutzen will, Dewdrop will kind of scurry up, kind of on the side, and like jump onto the little step, and then up onto the little seat.
It's sort of like scrambling your way up. It's sort of like watching
yeah.
a really small dog make its way up the stairs.
Yes.
You sort of you get like claws, and you're like
Yeah.
You kind of get up, and you get up the next step, and then you get onto the seat, and you're like scrabbling in the wood. You're like, I got it. And you're sort of like looking around, like okay.
Probably sitting between them, quite like little like paws like up, and like quite content, and just kind of sitting, just like nibbling away at the little chewy worm.
So you nibble away at your worm, and Bruce goes back to sitting on the cart and sort of like sits next to you quite amicably, and Gerber goes back to pulling the cart. And you travel for maybe another hour or so. The sun starts to set far behind you in the west. Not that you know it's the west. And you go down towards the river, and you see like this thin, silvery, grey, flat surface expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger as you get towards the crossing lock. So I'm going to move you guys down. And you find yourself at this very wide expanse of water, across from which stands more forest and mountain and more landscape. And you again have a sensation that the world is massive.
At some point, seen, like an open, like landscape in big space like that either. I wonder how he feels about like distance and like depth in that sense, if he's never really been exposed to it.
I'm going to say like at some point Gerber and Bruce switch, so Bruce sits on the seat next to you and Gerber is pulling the cart. They seem to take it in turns, and you realise that you have travelled, but at some point you don't actually know how to get back to the nest. Like you're in a completely different space and you've never had to orientate, and now you're like, oh, I'm just somewhere different now. It's sort of like walking through the wardrobe into Narnia, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a bit of like a liminal space kind of. I think I'm here now.
So you get to the village of Powell's Tail, and you see that it's a collection of small huts. There are a couple roads. There's a main stone, like cobblestone square, where there are some beasts who seem to be packing up tents, and they take you to a small. I'm gonna say they take you to Bruce's aunt's house, and you sort of sit down with this very wide beaver. You kind of go into this house that's half in the water and half out of it, and a little beaver lodge, and you sort of have dinner with these beavers, and they kind of set out stew, like a carrot stew, and they give you like a thimble of it because you're just so much smaller than they are. And you sort of sit on the dining table as opposed to at a seat at the dining table. And they sort of
really
talk about their day, and very occasionally like throw you a little comment. Like, oh, and what did you think of the weather and stuff like that? And they don't really know what to do with you.
I think Dewdrop is quite content. Just like listening to these stories, and while eating, he's definitely his eyes are darting around, taking in all the things in this house, and like where the little water is kind of lapping at the edge as it's kind of halfway in, halfway out, and that noise and the sound. And the way that there's like little candles and things, or like little...
The whole building is fascinating because it's built out of twigs and branches and bits of tree that you saw earlier, but they're woven in such a way, like fabric, into this sort of dome. And it's so strange. And then occasionally there's bits of candle, there's candelabra, and there's a fireplace, and there's like sometimes there's struts of stone that things are built onto. It's really interesting. And you don't know what they mean when they said it's just some small little lodge, because this place is massive.
Yeah, he's completely captivated by it. Completely.
So you spend the night there. They kind of give you a cushion to sleep on the table, and in the morning, Gerber's aunt kind of packs everyone lunch, and Gerber and Bruce explain that they are making their way down. They kind of show you a map of the Bristly Woods, and this is when you first like understand just how big the world is. I'm zooming out so that people on the stream can see, but there's this massive like world before you. This huge body of water. This forest that you came from is just this tiny little dot of trees on the map, and there is this whole other world of forest and mountains that you can explore. And they explain that they are on a long journey down river, across the stepping stones, through to Holdall, and then from Holdall they're going to be going up through to Rose Hill, and then across the bridge and through the forest to Odoak. They are traders. They've got lots of goods that they've brought over from the west coast, from the seagulls and the shippers there, and they are bringing them through to Odoak. They've got silk from across the ocean, they've got salt, and they've got minerals and iron and all sorts of fun things. And they show you some of these things in their cart as well, and you see that they've got rods of this sort of like metal that's very, very strong. I don't think you've probably seen metal before. It's always been everything's been made out of stone or flint or wood at the nest. But it's hard and it's cold.
Carved. Yeah.
And it tastes like blood, and it's very strange. And they show you this very, very soft fabric that's not at all like the coarse like cotton linen that they kind of like make at the nest, and all sorts of strange goods. And they say that if you're looking for something to do, that you could come along with them for the ride if you want.
I think so. I think he's intrigued to see more, and this is like a very quick, easy, and relatively safe way to do that. Or relatively. He's got the companion of these two beavers who are traveling through, or these large rats that are traveling through. Various locations, and like a little tour guide. I think so. I feel like would captures his attention more than traveling and exploring. I think then that's when he would kind of settle, and that's most likely Odoak, frankly.
You kind of you picture this little diamond, this white diamond and blue square in your head marked Odoak, and they sort of describe it as, they say it's a city built in the trees. It's massive. It's just full of people and beasts and all sorts of folk, and there's birds, and I think you'll really like it. You don't really know what to imagine, so you sort of imagine what the nest, but in trees, and then you can't really kind of fix, because it's tunnels. You're like, but are they in the trees? And your imagination is kind of completely captured as to how the city could exist.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
completely.
in the morning, you start to kind of travel off, and in the morning you see all sorts of weird beasts, or weird rats, and the pair of beavers. They start to sort of like point out different animals and be like, "Oh, that's a martingale," and "Oh, that's a blackbird," and "I'm a beaver," and they're not just rats. And you're like, "Is that a rat? No, that's not a rat. Is that a rat?
Yes.
No, that's not a rat. Is that a
Are
rat?
you sure
No,
that's
that's
not
a
a rat?"
dormouse. It's not a small rat, it's a dormouse, and they get annoyed if you call them rats."
Oh, okay. And I think he makes like a very like anything that is like clearly insulting, specifically, he will like make a very like close like mental note of like, okay, dormouse, do not call them rats. I think he's very kind by nature, and like would never want to harm or offend anyone. So he's learning.
Yeah, they're quite not affectionate, but they're quite warm with you, and they say, "Oh, you're a bit of a strange lad, you are. You're quite odd, but that's all right." And they sort of go about it. Now, as you guys travel down Loch, you make your way, and you start to see these islands appear, which these beavers call the stepping stones. And they explain that you're going to have to get on a boat, and then you're going to sail between these little islands, and then you'll get across and make your way up to Holdall. And the days pass, and they have you doing little chores. You have to go around and help get stones out of places they can't reach on the wagon. You have to help make sure that all the knots are tied on the wagon, and sometimes they have you sit on the back at specific points in the journey, and they say, "Oh, just cry out if you see any other beasts. Just give us a little holler."
Okay.
Yeah,
he's got those little grabby hands for all the little jobs.
So, is there anything you want to try and do while you're making this journey?
I think one of the first few things you would try and do is, with all his little collection of odds and ends, and having visited Bruce's aunt's house, or kind of like hovel, I think he would try to recreate some of the like woven, like kind of thatching almost, and just like playing about with little sticks and twigs and maybe some of the like the pine needles and stuff, and just playing about with that, just as he's kind of sitting on the cart, probably on while he's on the back, almost like equivalent to sitting like knitting, is what I'm picturing. Just sitting like little legs dangling and like flopping about. He's kind of knitting away, and then like glancing up and around from the back of the cart, and just having a grand old time.
Sometimes
like,
it's kind of like you get into the flow of it. It's sort of like you get your sea legs, so to speak, but it's for a cart, because the cart is so big. You sort of, sometimes you kind of like, you full on have air time as you're lifted up, and you just land on your butt like a bump, but you're totally invested in what you're trying to do. And when you make a cunning roll,
he eventually figures out, like wrapping his little tail around, like to keep himself grounded.
Yeah, you've got your tail like stuck into a basket. It sort of anchors you.
Oh no!
A 1.
A 1.
So I'm going to say that you're knitting away, and this is your 10th attempt at trying to get all of the bits of grass that you've picked from the side of a road to stay in place. You've got a sort of lattice going on, but every time you pick it up, they all just fall out. You've not quite mastered the tension of like getting them to sit together. It's at this point that a cool shadow passes overhead. It kind of passes by you as if you've passed underneath a tree, but you are just in open countryside right now. And you sort of look up curiously, and you realise that there is a small flying rat hovering in the air above you. Wait, no, it's not a rat. It's a bird. That's what the beaver said.
Yeah, I think that's what he calls out. He's like, Bruce Gerber, there's a flying rat. No, a bird just flew over.
And they kind of Gerber looks back. He's riding on the cart this time. He looks back and he goes, lad, you come here right now, quick.
Okay, and he'll just kind of like gently kind of put his like little lattice work down like inside the cart, and he'll just kind of wander kind of over the like tarp and like all the stuff, and just just pacing. He doesn't think he senses the urgency of it.
Gerber is like gesturing really, really quickly with his paws, like, come on, come on, come on. And the minute you get close, he snatches you up and stuffs you in a basket.
Why am I in here?
He says, shh, just stay real quiet there, son. Don't say a word. He sort of like closes the basket lid, and you've got like light filtering in. It's just a wicker basket, so it's not like you're trapped in a box or something like that. But like you see, filtering in from the light, the bright light of day, the shadow of this little bird swoop over the cart a couple times, and the bird fly down and alight on the cart. And the bird is very big. It's one of the biggest birds you've ever seen. And Bruce is still pulling the cart, but you see over the lip of the basket that he's nervously looking back, not really looking where he's going, at this large bird. And it leans over and leans very close to Bruce and peers at him with a long hooked nose and says, "Hello there, traders. Did I spot a rat in your pack?" And Gerber kind of pauses and goes, I don't believe so, sir. We only carry bits of iron and some silk if you're looking to trade, though I don't think you look like you've got anything to trade today. And the bird says, "No, I'm might peckish, and I saw that you had a rat, and I'd be willing to, take care of this model thing of you. Vermin can eat all sorts of bits and bobs on your cart, and I'll just take it off your hands. Don't have to worry about it." And the bird sort of like kind of sits back a little bit and sort of rustles its feathers. Are you doing anything?
I think that Lutzen is listening through, but then I think he's taking notice, like looking through the wicker basket. His eyes have kind of shifted focus from outside to looking directly at the wicker, and is taking like mental notes of how that's woven instead. And he's just zoned out. Like he's not even. He's aware of the conversation, like it's going on, but his like head tilts to the side, and his little nose starts twitching, and he's like, "Oh, like," and he just starts kind of like following along with his finger, like just feeling the woven. I think he's just, distracted.
I want you to make a cunning roll for me. To see if you stay quiet.
Can I tag my natural curiosity?
I'm gonna say that would give you disadvantage in this situation.
That is fair. In that case, I said nothing. Fine.
That is success. You do as well as you can. You are making quiet mental notes to yourself. I feel like if you tagged your natural curiosity, you'd start like talking to yourself in the basket, like, "Oh, this is really interesting, and why didn't I look at this earlier?"
I do think that he starts doing this, and I think when he kind of tunes back in when the bird says like eating the rat, and he gets like a little like jolt, and he's like, "Oh, that's me," and he kind of like rustles down again and like just stays quiet. And
so I'm not going to say that. I don't think the hawk quite says eat the rat. I think it's all like a little bit tongue in cheek, like, "Oh, I should take that vermin off your hand," and then kind of you snap back as Gerber says, "There's nothing for you to eat here. Get on with you. Get on. Go. Shoot. It starts to like huff at this hawk, and the hawk goes, I was just being polite. You don't have to be so rude." And sort of whoosh, and the cart lurches a little bit as the hawk kind of like starts to flap, and there's wind pelting. The hawk kind of takes off and starts to flap away
through the wicker basket. Watson's fur or Dewdrop's fur just kind of all blows to like one direction.
It's kind of rustles and blows, and there's bits of dust in the underneath the top, because the top lifts up a little bit with the woof, whoosh.
Yeah.
And then there's a long tense silence of creaking on the car and the back and forth, and then Gerber goes, "Good riddance. Gosh, it's such a little pesky little... Oh, the nerve. And sort of reaches back, opens up the lid of the basket, and then kind of very gently offers a paw to take you out again.
Yeah, I think Watson will take the paw, but he'll kind of question like, "So was that a bird or was it a big rat?"
Oh no, little fella, it's not a big rat. That's a bird. It's called a hawk. They eat rats and mice and sometimes other critters as well. And they're so bold, this part of the woods. Gosh, it's like they forget that you guys can be on business as well. Oh.
Why would you want to eat a rat? I don't. What's a vermin? What did it say for a what's that?
Oh, don't say that word. That's a very rude word. It means a useless beast. Absolutely pointless, waste of space. They only drain, only nasty. Not many folks are vermin. Use that word very, very carefully.
Oh. Okay.
He's implying that all you're doing is just sitting on our cart and eating our stuff and being a nuisance. But you help out. You're a good un. And that's. Oh.
So, would that hawk be a vermin? Because he was being useless. He wasn't doing much to help.
And Gubba kind of chuckles a little bit and says, "Oh well, some might say that. I think they help out somehow. Just not quite sure what it is. I think those Smartans over at Odoak would have some kind of idea of population control or something. He's definitely big is what he is. Got to eat a lot. Ugh. I'm sure he's useful getting through the mountains or something."
I've never met a mountain. I would like to meet one day.
Gubba laughs again and says, "Oh..." And he's a little bit like shaken as well from the encounter. He goes, "Well," and kind of pats the wood next to him. "I'm sure you'll meet a mountain someday soon. For now, we've got to get us on a boat." And you guys continue on forward.
I think I was like, is that another beast? What does that beast look like?
No, we've gone over this. A boat is a kind of wagon, except it doesn't have wheels and it goes over water.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. A boat, not a stoat, I remember now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we saw a stoat back a few miles. It was going north, and that was a little stoat we've known for a while called Stacy.
Fuck you.
And they like to paint their nails.
Oh.
And then he says, "Can you point to your nails?"
I think he'd maybe take out like some of the like odds and ends out of his bag, and he just like.
You take out like an old nail you found on the road, and they go,
"Yeah,
no, not quite. It's the claws on your hands, son." And he sort of The journey continues. So you make your way to Gozed, and it's at that point that you get onto a large wooden raft and start to cross the stepping stones. The islands here are very small, maybe only an hour or two to walk across, but they are teeming with beasts. The boat, it is filled with like otters and stoats and mice and beavers and all sorts of beasts, and they're in wagons or they're hauling boxes or they have little packs, and it's very, very busy. It's the most beasts you've ever seen in one place at once, and the smell is very interesting as well. There's spices and salts, and some of them have fresh produce. And you make your way over the stepping stones. It takes the better part of a day to make your way across the islands to the shipping town of Vessel, where there's many more boats that are coming up and down the loch, and then over to Paddledock at the other side. And it's there that you spend the night at an inn there and relax. You have more soup, and you start to make your way over to Odoak. What is really capturing Lutson's interest on this journey? Is there something that Lutson's working towards or getting good at?
I think it's probably the kind of maintenance of the cart, I think, is the job that he's been most enjoying. He's getting to like play with things and fix things, and you know, he's got these little paws that can reach in and get all the like the tight little spaces. And so I think just learning more about how this cart works and moves. So just like very primitive, like or basic like engineering.
So I want you to make a vigor check at advantage for me, because it's relying on your rote skills, the things you're learning, and you've got lots of time to work on this, so you have advantage.
Okay.
So that's 2 successes. The culmination of your work so far, you've given up on the weaving. I think after like the hawk, you kind of went back to go find it and you're blown away in the wind.
Yeah.
You go, weaving's not for me. And you've actually made a miniature cart that you've kind of whittled and scraped out of little bits of twig and wood. And it's very rickety. But you're able to put your your paw in it and drive it along. You've got the basics of a cart. It can't turn, but it does go back and forth. And I don't think you would make like vroom noises, but it does go. Yeah.
Yeah, clackety clackety clack.
Clackety clackety clack. And you've made this little cart, and this foreshadows a problem that you're going to encounter further ahead. As you've travelled past Spinner's cot, and you start to exit the forest on the third leg of your journey towards Rosehill, that there is a clonk, push, and suddenly everything lurches sideways.
Oh no.
Gerber catches you in one arm and rolls off of the cart, and the world spins, and you kind of flop onto some grass. No one's hurt, but you look over at the cart, and there is a as you see one of the wheels has snapped off the axle and is rapidly rolling back downhill into the forest.
Oh no.
What do you do?
So just for how big is the wheel compared to Dewdrop?
I think it's like 3 times the size of you.
So my initial thinking was, I know this is on like a quick time, like it's running away, but like that thing is huge. He can't even go and stop that. Like that's just not going to happen. So I think instead Lutzen would start scurrying around and try to pick up all the loose stuff that's maybe fallen off the top of the cart. Any of like keeping an eye out for any of the small like fixings. Need to keep an eye out for, because he would know there's like pins and things that keep the wheel together
Everything
and keep
in place.
them
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel he's maybe looking for those parts.
So you, I want you to make a vigor roll for me. This seems to be relying on your duties as cart maintainer.
A vigor roll. It is a success.
You do as well as you can. After putting you down and making sure that you weren't crushed, without a word, well, more like a kind of a cry of "Oh no!" The beavers just start to like run after the wheel, like slap, 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 slap of their feet on the ground. And the wheels, dong, 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 and they very quickly disappear into the shadow of the forest. You're left alone with the cart, kind of picking up bits and bobs. And with success, you're able to notice that one of the ropes is going to like unravel and untie, and everything's going to spill off the cart, and you're able to quickly, with another rope kind of over one shoulder, scrabble over the tarpaulin and tie it to the other side of the cart, so everything mostly stays in place. One of the bars of iron has slipped off, and you try to like get it back onto the cart, but it's too heavy for you, because it's probably the size of you. So you'd have to really pinch.
He'll roll it, just so it's like a little bit closer to the cart, so it's not going to go away. I'm not going to forget.
Yeah, it's sort of like one of those exercises in the gym where you kind of flip things. You flip it and you flip it.
Oh, it's like the tire flip thing.
Yeah, like tire flipping this piece of metal towards the cart, and you've kind of collected the various bits that have kind of like fallen off of the cart, and you found the pin which held the wheel in place where it snapped. And you see that it's just completely shorn in two. Like the stress of it is just completely gone. And as the adrenaline of the situation fades, you are sitting on the cart and you realise that you are alone.
Uh-oh.
It is a warm spring day, and you realise it's been maybe 5 minutes, and Bruce and Gerber haven't come back.
Oh no, my pals. Okay. I think Watson probably sits under the cart, because from the experience with the hawk, he knows now, you know, staying out of sight is good, it keeps you safe. It's what kept the nest safe.
So, how do you hide?
So I'm imagining, so the cart's kind of tilted on one side, right? It's kind of fallen down, so it's still propped up on one other end. I think he sits closer to one of the the lower corners, just kind of underneath where the corner is, and just sitting probably towards the front of the cart for any approaching danger, like anyone walking down the path.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of sitting there, and I think he's just kind of, you know, sitting, waiting, little like feet just kind of like moving away, just waggling away, and he's just kind of like sitting there like clacking his paws together, and you know, just a little bit impatient, and just kind of taking the sights. And I guess he doesn't really take much notice of passage of time per se, but I think this one takes.
He notices make a cunning roll for me. So this is a mixture of you kind of staying alert and also, you know, just being aware of your surroundings, and also just, you know, staying in one place. So that's a 6.
These are good rolls.
Yeah. You do as well as you can. You stay out of sight. You stay in the shade. You know that if you're in the shade, things mostly can't see you. That's a lesson that Bruce taught you. And the sun moves now directly overhead. The shadow is very like straight down. It's been about an hour now, and they've not come back.
I don't know. I don't think he would go and look for them, because they would come back. It's their cart, it's all their wares and their goods, and like Watson can't carry all this by himself. Like, he's tiny, or Dewdrop even. So I think he would wait a little bit longer. I think he'd maybe wait for like another hour or so, and then would maybe start. I don't know. I don't know if he would. I think he would wait a bit too long.
Yeah, that's maybe a good way to phrase it. You wait a bit too long. I want you to make another cunning roll for me.
Like if he keeps his ears like alert to hear anything or anyone, and he's not going to call out, because that again, bad. A critical success.
Ooh. It's at this point you realise that there is a very big black and white rat. Wait, no. You've seen one of those at the crossing. It's a badger. Hiding in the brush. Now, this isn't like space, because that's like a whole day's journey, but you know what I mean. Like, there is a badger hiding in the brush somewhere, looking at the cart. And you hear it with your keen ears. That you've gotten more acclimatized to listening to things outside as opposed to indoors. You hear it whispering to a pal, and it goes, "I think they're not coming back. I think we can take it now. We can get all their stuff. No, wait. If they come back, they're gonna fix the wheel, and then we can have a whole cart." And they sort of are poking back and forth.
I think tuning into this, Lutsen will. So, like, is it quite open? Is there like enough kind of brush and things that he could like? I want to try and like stealth around, you know, so they can't see me. But I want to try and like stealth around and like try and sneak up on them.
So, up on them. Okay, that's going to be a cunning roll for awareness of your. Yeah. I'm going to say, actually, it'll be a contest. If you're trying to like sneak up on them, they're actively watching the cart. They're doing a thing. It's going to be a contested cunning roll.
Okay. So I think if he was sneaking, he would sneak to the back of a cart and use that as like obviously an object to disguise himself slightly more. Jumping into the brush and kind of like keeping low. He's quite little, so kind of keeping low and scurrying around, and then like doing like a bit of a loop. He's also going to take like a wee stick with him, like a little like a small branch that he's got, just as like some sort of not quite weapon, but just something to hold on to and feel threatening with.
Yeah. So you pick up like one of the sharper looking. There's like a fire poking stick that you keep because it's all charcoaly and you can draw with it. So you've got that. So it's kind of like a bit sharpened from being in the flame. You got that and you start to crawl through. So that's a cunning roll for me. If you're tagging anything, you might get advantage.
If this count is getting into trouble, I don't want it to devolve into trouble. But
I feel like this is getting into trouble, so we'll give you advantage. You're very good at getting yourself into sticky situations.
Yeah, yes, very much that. So you said cunning roll, yeah?
Yeah, so you roll first with advantage.
Okay. Oh, I mean, it's critical success, so...
And they can't beat that, because they have 2d6, and also they have disadvantage. Because they're bickering. So with a roll of a 2 versus an 8, you sneak up on them. You are sort of like, now, you sort of go away from them in the cart, and then round the side, so that they don't know that you've left the cart, or that you're in the cart in the first place. And now you're sort of to the side of them, and they're bickering back and forth about like whether they should wait or whether they should just fix the cart themselves and then take it on. One of them has got a bag full of, it's sort of like your bag of fixings. It's full of random shiny things. And another one has got a big, it looks like a bar of metal, like one of those iron rods, but it's really flat and it's got a handle. Why would you need it's weird. Yeah. And they're very big, because they are badgers, and they're kind of like bickering back and forth. Now you're behind them with this sort of charcoal stick.
Yeah. So, this is so dumb, it's not even going to work, but I think Listen's going to jump out in front of, like, to them, and he's going to call out, and he's going to say, "You leave that cart alone, and you leave my friends alone. They're coming back." And he's going to, like, hold the stick and, like, pointy end, charcoal end to them, looking as big and threatening as he can.
Okay.
"You leave that cart alone. Don't you dare. They're coming back. They're my friends."
Okay. This feels like you're being intimidating, which is going to be a willpower roll, and it's going to be a contest against them. I'm going to say they have disadvantage because they're surprised.
Yeah.
So let's just see what happens.
Again, getting into trouble.
Yeah, you have advantage. Let's go for it. You roll twice, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, between getting into trouble and outlandish solutions, this like feisty little rat. Another critical success.
Let's see what happens. Oh.
Fuck.
Oh my god. Disadvantage. We have to roll again. This is how it works. But they rolled 2 8s.
No.
Wait, hang on.
No.
I'm gonna say that there's one of these moments where you jump out and there is a long silence. You're like, "Get away! They're my friends. They're coming back." And they're looking at you. And they just don't have an expression. They go from like ribbing and bickering and they just both look at you.
Like,
and they both look at each other. They both look at you.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this moment of opportunity. What do you do?
I think in that moment of opportunity, seeing them kind of pause and take a minute, Wilson's going to kind of run towards them and just kind of like swinging the stick, just like back and forth, just like, "Ah!" Or like batting the ground with it and just like, "Ah, get away!"
I want you to make a willpower roll for me. And it's not contested. I just want you to make a straight willpower check.
A feral rat.
Yes!
Okay, willpower. Like, that's the energy he's channeling, just like, "Ah!"
Feral rat.
Feral rat energy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they spook.
Yeah.
The one with the bag of shiny stuff immediately scrambles and stumbles back over it. The one with the sword kind of sort of like starts going back on its hind legs and sort of holds its sword out in front of itself and starts like not poking at you. It's poking at you, but it's not actually poking you. You're like, "Ah!" And the two badgers sort of just go, "Ah! You didn't say there was a lookout. You were maybe looking for a lookout." And they sort of stumble backwards. The one with the bag scrambles over it, spilling the contents everywhere, grabs the sack, half of it falls out, and starts to run off into the bush, and the friend turns back and says, "Oh, what if it's... Wait for me!
Go on,
and
get away!
It runs
Get
after
away!
its friend.
Yeah, go on, get out!
And you...
Like, that's right.
It's sort of like...
Run away!
It's sort of like when you... In those videos you see on, like, YouTube or TikTok, where, like, you see, like, a cat trying to, like, bat at a mouse, and the mouse fights back, and the cat's like, wow! Yeah. And it just runs away.
Yeah, 100% that energy. That's exactly it.
I think, like, the badger with the sword tries to, like, bap you with one of its paws, and you whack it on the nose with, like, your charcoal stick, and it just goes, poof, and it...
Yeah.
Full 180, and then scrambles after its friend.
Yep.
And you're sort of left as the dust is clearing from this bush. The badgers are gone.
He's kind of like... he feels a little bit like... what was that? and then I think he'll kind of spot some of the things, and like he'll just drop the little stick, and we'll scurry over and like start like just investigating like what was dropped. Or, no. First he would look back to the cart and check and see if Bruce and Gerber were like maybe coming back. Just if they happen to be cresting the...
I'm going to say your natural curiosity. You go over, and it seems to be weird. There's a very big metal cup. There is a weird... It's a stick with prongs. Wait, no. Gerber said that's a fork. But it's sized for a bigger beast. And there's a couple knives. And they're quite shiny. They're made of metal. There is... It's a wheel, but it's very weird. It's like the inverse of a spoked wheel. So it's a circle with metal bits coming off of it, and you pick it up, and it's not got spokes on the inside of the circle, and it's shiny, and it's got a weird-looking embossed design on it. It's a bit strange. And some strange, scratchy... Oh, Gerber says those are letters, but you can't read it? Is that what it's called? Read? You flip it over, and it's quite shiny. And that's a little bit smaller. That's something you could pick up in your paws. It's quite thin as well. There's a very small hole at the center, but otherwise it's pretty solid.
On the gear, or like on the wheel.
Yeah, it's a gear.
yeah. I like that description a lot.
And as you kind of look back, you see, you kind of gather some of the stuff, and sort of take it over to the cart, and maybe after 10 minutes, you see two small brown dots getting closer from down the road, and it is Gerber and Bruce. Bruce is rubbing a bonk on his head, and Gerber's rubbing a bonk, and Bruce is rolling the wheel.
I like to imagine that the time that's passed, Lutzen has done like a little journey, like from the cart out to the stuff and back, and like just slowly collecting and dragging things, same again, and just like hoarding this little pile of shiny things, like underneath the cart, so that when they come back, they just see him like sitting again as he was before, but now there's just this pile of shite that's just there.
Yeah.
Like, where did this come from, you crazy little thing?
So the beavers are like, oh, I told you to bite through the net. Don't just... Oh, God, you idiot. You always get us into trouble. It's like, how was I meant to know there was a net there? Someone just set one up in the middle of the road. That's so rude. And they're bickering, and they go, oh, well, at least you're safe. You been up to much? And they kind of look at the dust trail into the bush and look at the random pile of gears, and there's a spanner and some forks and some knives and random stuff. Where are you getting all this?
I fought two bodgers.
And they sort of, Bruce immediately like drops the wheel and looks around.
Oh, they're gone. I scared them away. But look, they left all this stuff. Look at this weird wheel. And he'll like hold up the gear and shine it kind of into the, like in the moonlight, I guess.
It's not moonlight. It's like afternoon sunlight.
I thought it was approaching evening. My bad.
Oh no, it was midday. You waited till midday and then.
Right. Yeah. Well, in that case, into the sun and like glinting it and like.
Yeah.
Look, and it's got those scratches on it. Look, it says something.
And the kind of Bruce takes it from you and kind of holds it up and goes, and it's quite small in his paw. And he says, "This is a craft paw badge. Badges. Oh, I didn't know these parts were rough. You get this all in the car. We need to fix this. We need your help with a pin." And he kind of starts rifling through the back of the the cart and takes out some spare like fixing materials and says, "I need you to." And he hands you like he hands you a big hammer. He says, "Oh wait, no, you won't be able to. Wait, you hold the pin and I'll hammer it." And the two beavers kind of lift up the cart and fix the wheel on, and you hold the pin in place and conk, 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 and they kind of fix the cart with your help. I love the idea of him handing you this massive hammer, and it's as big as you, and you sort of like fall over backwards with it. You can't lift it.
Yeah, he's pinned underneath it like those lifting weights, and just like
help.
He just like casually throws the hammer over, like, oh, catch it, and it's just clunk to the floor.
Bonk. Well, it's sort of like you're not necessarily pinned, but you kind of get it. You fall over backwards, and then you sort of like you lift up the wood, but it's sort of like on a hinge almost. Like the wood is just so
the heavy end is just stuck to the ground.
Yeah.
It's like trying to scrape it along the ground.
So you fix the cart and you get back on your journey, and the two beavers explain that they went into the woods and there was some kind of net trap. The wheel had gone off of the road and they'd gotten swept up in this net trying to find it, and they were stuck in this net and they didn't know how to get out, and eventually they bit their way out, and one of them Bruce fell on top of Gerber, and Gerber hit his head on a rock, and it was very painful. No. And they did find the wheel in the end, but it was rather dumb.
Yeah.
And they think that maybe it was set up by those two badgers, and maybe they were very lucky that you were here.
Yeah. And I think he would have said, like, "Oh, I knew you were going to come back. I knew it. It's like, we're pals. You were going to come back."
Which is very nice.
Yeah.
And so the rest of your journey is not as eventful. You make your way to Lauren Bridge. Where is it, Lauren? Logan Bridge.
Logan Bridge.
Which is called Logan Bridge because it's covered in loganberries. It's a bridge through a big patch of them, and that's a nice snack that you're able to like kind of resupply on your way over. And you'll make your way up river towards Oport, which is a small dock with a winding path leading up towards Odok, a massive tree city. It is the biggest village you've ever seen. It's 1,000 times the size of Powell's Tail or any of the other places you've been through. It is.
Lutzen would point out, and you'd be like, "So which one's the city? Is it the one in the middle, or is it the other big one over there?"
And the kind of the beavers kind of laugh and explain that they're all interconnected. That one, that's the main bridge, and that's the second bridge, and then that one there is fourth bridge, and then and they all go between. And if you look at the branches, they've been woven and grown in a way that they actually make a floor, and then there's layers. And then those are the lifts, and you're going with the little cart underneath, and there's birds flying everywhere, and there are these bats and all sorts of weird creatures, and
they're definitely a rat. He sees a bat go by, he's like, "Oh no!" But like the bat that flies by, he's like, "Oh, that's a rat."
And they go, "No, that's a bat, a bat." And you go, "Oh wait, no, that's a rat." And then you see there is a rat on one of the branches that falls off of the branch, and your heart stops in your chest until halfway down to the ground, from all the way up in an oak tree, the rat woof, and starts floating, and you notice they've got some kind of weird contraption on their back, like a parachute, and they sort of and then
so I think
the cloth that stopped and slowed their fall then descends around them, and you notice a whole bunch of other rats run over and start like pulling at the fabric, and they all kind of come together and start chatting.
I think Watson would, or G would point it out and say, "Well, that's a bat as well. Then it's in the air. That must be a bat."
Oh, I'm not quite sure if they're a bat there. I feel that's those there are craft paws. They're the ones who make those little silver cogs that you found from those badges. We should probably go apart when we've dropped off our goods at the Landstrider's Old. We should go and make our introductions. You got a good hand with the cart. You might like to say hi.
Well, I mean, they are my cousins. Gotta go and say hello.
And the bit of love again. I don't think you're related, but I'm sure they'll like the enthusiasm. They've got all sorts in their ranks. I think the rats are quite enthusiastic. And then you see another like.
Oh, we are.
This time a what animal would also fall down? I'm gonna say it's a squirrel. A squirrel I'm gonna say it's a red squirrel who. This is an interesting little bit of information. Who we would recognize because it's like a flashback situation. We recognize as Chipper.
I knew you were gonna say it.
A glider, as opposed to a parachute, sort of lifts off with the help of a couple rats and maybe a blue tit. And there's a blue tit kind of trailing behind, and then sort of tries to glide, and plonk, scatters into the ground. And the glider snaps in half, and they sort of like pancakes onto the ground, and there's like a ooh from the other animals on the ground of this sort of like test flight strip. And Chipper sort of like gets up and goes, I'm okay. Oh, God, that was rough. Oh, back to the drawing board. And they sort of look over and goes, oh, it broke in two. And they sort of like, and it all just falls apart. And some of the other like animals come over and say, oh, don't worry, Rose, it'll be all right. And your cart kind of passes over a bridge that's kind of spans the kind of testing area they're working on as you go towards one of the large oaks and one of the lifts, and say there'll be time enough to meet them soon. But first, let's just get our stuff dropped off, and we can get you settled, and then we can figure out if you want to come back with us or going west. And yeah, so you drop off your goods at the Guild of the Landstriders, who ferry goods back and forth all over the Bristly Woods and beyond. And you spend most of the day quite bored, actually. The beavers have a lot of paperwork to do. There's logging goods and getting it into the right warehouses, and you do like going up and down the lifts. And they I do think
maybe Watson just like stays on the lift. You know, and I think he just stays on the lift going up and down and up and down, and maybe I don't know if there's someone who's there to operate it, but he probably just stands next to them and just kind of like just stays up and down, like, are you getting off? And you're like, no, I'm okay. I'll just stay here.
I think like you do 2 trips up the lift, like you go up and then you go down, and then you go back up again, and Bruce is waiting there, looking a little annoyed, tapping his foot and says, "Oh, stop being in people's ways." And sort of, he says really apologetically to the lift operator, "I'm very sorry, he's a bit new to Old Oak." And the operator says, "Oh, that's all right, they all are when they first get here." And you kind of, they guide you off the lift and very much take you towards the warehouse where you're very bored, and you're watching the lift from afar, going up and down like, I want to be on the lift.
He's got like his little head on the window, like just out a little window. Just watching it like go up and down, and all the beasts coming out and like going back in, and just watching the fairlies go by.
And you see more of like the parachute experiments from the Guild of Craft Paws, and you see that they have this sort of like hut, sort of longhouse built onto one of the branches, where like little specks of animals, little small animals are going in and out, and some of them are bringing stuff, and there's a small cart is brought in with shiny bits of metal, and then one of the animals, it's that squirrel again, goes back onto the roof with a different kind of glider, which plummets into the ground again, and to more like oh sort of like noises, and you're very jealous of all the fun they're having. And I think with Lutzen staring out of the window, very bored, I think that's where we're going to end today's little prequel adventure.
Yeah, I like that. And that was the beginning of our Dewdrop transforming into Lutzen, or changes into the origin story begins here.
I feel like all the way through, even leaving the nest, the burrow where you first came from, you never really felt an affinity for the name Dewdrop.
No.
And you've been thinking maybe it's time for something else. And
yeah,
that'll be interesting piece of your past of learning about rat naming conventions from other craft paws and all of that fun stuff.
I like it.
A little interesting little tidbit of information. Seeing Chipper with the craft paws.
I knew it. As soon as you said there was a squirrel, I knew it.
Not all squirrels are evil.
No,
it just happens to
all
be
squirrels are
that
evil.
Chipper is really, really adamant.
You've written this in now. It's canon in the world. No, that's good. That's good. It was just really fun.
Yeah. It's just been really fun to have a little one-on-one, especially because Atlanta is unfortunately in hospital right now. Vera's traveling between here and Poland and getting a little puppy. It's nice to have some one-on-one time. And we're recording it tomorrow and then releasing it later in the week. But there is a fun scurry happening as well, showing off the new system that I've written and you've helped illustrate with Eve and Letty Wilson. So it's going to be super fun.
Yes. And Atlanta is on the mend. So
yes. Atlanta isn't dying. Atlanta's just getting some stuff done.
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Human.
And for her Atlanta operability test, you know?
Oh my god, yeah. Is there like an Atlanta road tax?
Oh my god. Baby, that's just council tax. That's just existence.
Oh god. No!
Anyway, moving on.
I have been Brian. I use he, him pronouns. I run Dungeons on a Dime. It has been really fun to have a little adventure through the Bristly Woods today. I have been joined by Fraser.
Hello, I am Fraser. I have been your little morning dewdrop. I go by he, him pronouns, and you can find me online on Instagram, Twitter, etc. under the alias of Lost Astronaut. You can also support me on Patreon at patreon.com/lostastronaut. My one little thing to plug at the moment is that I am working with the Chip Collective. We have a Kickstarter right now for a comic anthology called Working in the Arts, which I am illustrating for. So please go and check it out. So Chip Collective, Working in the Arts. It's brilliant. It's been a really fun project to work on. Unfortunately, I can't show too much of it just yet, but check it out. Please support the Kickstarter if you can, and yeah, it'd be very much appreciated. Any shares and such would be grand.
However, with the magic of technology,
wow.
Oh, it's black on the screen now. Hang on.
Oh no! So it highlights and explores creative industries, and it's a bunch of stories of various designers, creators, crafters, and their stories of how they got into the arts and how they work, and just to show that there's no one way of doing it. It's really beautiful anthology. I think it's going to be very interesting and exciting to see it all come together. So yeah, lots of fun, exciting artists, including Letty Wilson and Eve Greenwood.
Oh yeah, they're both in it as well. Perfect time to plug it.
Yeah, exactly. They're both. So I know tomorrow when we're recording that, we'll be like, hey, we all have this thing to plug.
It's going to be the Chip stream.
The Chip stream. That's it.
Yeah. But they are awesome. I've supported their projects in the past, and it's reminded me that I need to back. Oh no, manage your pledge. I did back. I've already backed it.
Nice.
Yay! It's really cool. I hope they get funded. They did a previous anthology in I think it's called Telling Our Stories, that was in support of cancer research. And it was all from like telling perspectives of folks who have had cancer or had family who had cancer, and it was really, really cool. And I just really hope they do well. Yeah.
So CHIP stands for Comics Help Inform People. So it's all informative comics. So all the stories are always very interesting, and it's a really exciting range of people that have been interviewed and are being illustrated. And as well as the artists are all very different and exciting and amazing. So please check it out. Please support it. You're directly supporting lots of artists and such of the Scottish.
Like 60% of the Kickstarter fees go towards artists, which is fantastic. We'd love to see it.
Yes. So support the arts.
Support the arts. Right. Well, I think we shall call it a day. I'm going to end the recording, and this shall go live next Thursday.
Lovely.
Thank you for joining me, Fraser. We will see you for the finale of Beast Fables when everyone is on the mend and available soon. Bye for now.
Ta-ta.
Goodbye.